Can you hear me, Terry? Hmm. Testing one, two, three.
Hi, Lori. How you doing?
Good, Terry. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have a good weekend?
I did. Did you?
Awesome.
Did you have a
I
good
did.
Easter?
I did. It was awesome.
Wonderful. I ate too much sugar though.
Yeah, I'm a jelly bean fan.
Oh,
So
me too.
those daggone jelly bellies had me almost sick, okay?
Yeah, I hear ya. My daughters are visiting right now, and so
Hmm.
one did an Easter egg hunt for my husband and I, and our eggs were filled with dark chocolate almond roca. Almond
Oh,
roca
Lord.
is made here in Tacoma.
Uh-huh.
So she got the dark chocolate ones, which are really good. And
Oh, wow.
so I had two of those, and I had a ginger cookie at church because they had a big buffet afterward. We brought healthy stuff to share, but then I hit the dessert. It was good. And then one of our traditions is I bake a yeast chocolate bread with chocolate
Mm-hmm.
chips and we shape it into a bunny.
Oh.
And so we always have that for breakfast, either before services or after. In this case, we did it beforehand. So I had an arm and a leg off the bunny this morning, that morning. So
Right.
yeah, I had lots of sugar yesterday.
Yes. Me too. Even though my kids are older, they still wanted the Easter basket.
That's okay. Mine are 28 and 29. And
Right. Mine's
they
are 21 and 18.
there you go. Yeah, no,
So
my actually older daughter, she did Easter baskets for all of us with treats in them and different things.
yeah. Yeah. It
And
was fun making it an older Easter basket, not the traditional thing. So
yep,
it was fun putting it together for them. But I was like, I don't know how long I'm gonna do this, guys. Like, come on.
I still do it. I went and I bought my daughter's tops and earrings, and then they got bath bombs, the
Hmm.
round. They got bath bombs and they got like a hand mask that you put on to make your skin soft. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so I do different things. Some years I put in like nail polish and it just,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's fun. It's a good tradition to keep up. My
Yeah. I
husband
did
thinks
like
it's ridiculous.
yeah, I did like t-shirts and like gift cards this time.
Oh, nice.
They like t-shirts with like funny sayings on them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I found some based on their personalities.
Oh, good.
And I put some t-shirts in there and some gift cards for like their favorite things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
my
How
kids don't really
thoughtful.
they don't really like candy like that. I don't have
Yeah.
candy. I'm the
Yeah.
candy.
You're the candy person.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
like candy.
Mine, my daughter, she took care of all the sweets. I try not to give them sweets. They're both trying to slim down.
Hmm.
Um, they both came through college and, they did some people in college do the freshman 25.
Right.
my girls have more than 25 to take off, so they're careful with their what they eat. So they
Yeah.
did get a sweet, but they got it's a special type of date. It's not like normal dates. It's the big fat ones. You know which ones
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about? They're
Mm-hmm.
they're very caloric, but they're natural sugar. So they got that in their basket this year. So
Oh, that was
yeah,
thoughtful.
yeah. Sometimes I do the, have you seen the little energy packs of nuts and things? Sometimes I'll do that.
Yes,
It
I have
just
those little
depends.
snack packs. I have those.
Sometimes I give them things like that. They can throw in their purse or put it in the car or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, I'm glad you had such a wonderful day. I did too.
You
I'm
too.
sorry for the
Glad you
kids
did too.
here. We've had really bad weather.
Oh,
It's typical Washington weather. It's been really soggy.
yeah.
And so the poor kids, when we came out of services yesterday, there was a Easter egg hunt across the street at the high school and it was pouring. And so I just don't know how
Yeah.
you do that. Hey,
Yeah.
Jacob. So Terry, are you going to be on camera with us today?
I am. I'm just getting myself together and I will be back in a few
Oh,
minutes.
okay, because I'll introduce you to the team because I'm not sure you know
Okay.
everybody.
Nope, I'll be right back in a few minutes.
How you feeling, Jacob?
Oh, I was muted. I'm starting to feel better. I'm thinking I'm going to be coming in actually after this. So,
Okay, sounds good. You know what's weird? I have, I don't know where my logo went. It's no longer in my options for Zoom.
oh, weird.
Isn't that strange?
That is strange.
It used to
Choose
be there.
which one. I
It, well, I don't
think,
have, I have no idea where it went to unless maybe Zoom updated. It's like an updated version and maybe it
oh,
changed. Maybe it changed what was available. I don't know.
um, yeah, what you can do is, if you click the little arrow on the video thing and go to my virtual background on the
It's
right
not there.
side. Oh, it's not. Weird.
No,
Huh.
it only gives me the opportunity to blur my background. It used to have um, my logo was in there. I put it in there when I was first hired. So I have to figure out how to do that again.
Open mine's backwards. There we go.
No, you can read yours.
Yeah,
Oh, it
we've
looks
got,
backwards on my screen. Does it look good now?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
no, it's fine.
Okay. It's the
Hi,
little things.
Casey.
They
It's
matter.
Hi, how
yeah,
are you?
good. Good,
Good.
good, good. We are recording today. I just want to share that with you.
Okay.
We've got a staff member that's ill, and so we've recorded it for her. And then we also have a note taker who's one of our members, part of our executive board, and she couldn't make it today. So I thought it would be important that she also have access to the recording.
Okay.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, we'll do
Hey, Ben.
introductions once everybody's here. There's Terry. So we are just waiting for Susan
And Emily.
and Emily. Right. Excuse me, Susan and Emily.
Okay.
Ben, I went ahead and did multiple screen share privileges so that you and
Ooh.
Susan can drive.
It'll be
Ben
mostly her, but yeah.
you got a haircut, looks nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
I need one. Mine's getting longer and longer and longer. Hey, Susan.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We're just waiting for Emily.
No problem.
And then I'll turn it over to you. We might want to do intros because I know AFSCME team doesn't necessarily know all of our team.
And vice versa. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
definitely do introductions as we get going. And then Lori, I think you have the note-taking sheet. I just put it in your email.
Oh, okay. I also gave you screen share privileges.
Great.
So if you wanted to,
If one of either you or somebody can put those,
I'm
put
happy
it in
to
the
screen
chat.
share it. Oh, put it in the chat. Okay.
I want
Give me
people to have the hard
Yeah.
copy.
Sure. Let me just give me 1 second.
And then I think everybody had the outline as well, but let's go ahead and I think I can post that one. Let's get this in there.
Okay. I have to save it first.
No problem. It's being fussy with me. So let me try one more time. Close it out and try again. Okay, so I just put in the chat the outline.
Okay, you've
There
got
might
it.
be some modifications. And then since that worked, let me try the notes. I'm not sure. It's making me close out of everything I want to stay open. Maybe somebody can tell me if you are able to download both of them. Okay, great. It's like everybody's got them from you and me. Did you get it, Casey? I saw
Yeah.
a head nod. All right, brilliant. All right. So first and foremost, welcome, welcome, welcome. There's been a lot of great work to get to this point. And we are super excited that on Friday we get to do this listening session. So what I would like to do with our time together is number one, kind of walk through kind of what the purpose is, what the outcome is. It's going to feel a little bit like if you've done focus group work or listening sessions before, it's going to feel a little bit like you would with a community-based group. Some of the structure that we're using is there, and that's purposeful. And so walking through kind of the purpose, the roles that all of you are wearing, and then we want to literally walk through the listening session so that everybody is comfortable kind of where they are. And we make sure everybody has every question, any questions. So please, this is going to be informal. So if you have a question, please ask it when you have it. This isn't meant to be fancy. This is meant to make sure that everybody feels comfortable walking into Friday. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. So if you don't mind, if you could share your name, kind of where you are and what role you play, so that we can kind of all center. And then Lori, if you would make sure when you go make mention of, or Ben, who's not in the space, because I thought we had, I'm trying to count, I think we have a body or two missing, but I can't remember now. So I'm Susan Crumpton. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm from the AFSCME Education Department, and I have these are like some of my favorite peoples on this screen right now. So I'm just tickled pink to be here, and I'll be kind of leading as a facilitator of the joint session, and have been proud and excited to work with RPEC on this journey. And this is kind of one step in a bigger process we'll tell you about. So let's just bebop around. I'm going to toss it to somebody. So after you introduce yourself, if you would toss it to somebody else in the room. Terry, you're right next to me. Welcome, Terry.
Awesome. Hey, Susan. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Good.
I'm Terry Brady. I work in the retirees department. I am the admin assistant, and I'm in Washington, D.C.
Terry.
And I'll throw it over to Elizabeth since she's waving at me.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi, Terry, because I've worked with you since I've been here, so it's very nice to finally see you almost in person.
Right.
I'm Elizabeth Wittenberg. I'm the what's my title? I am the finance and operations specialist here at RPEC. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone on this project. Let's shoot you over to Jacob.
Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Knupp and I'm the membership coordinator for RPEC, also in Olympia. Nice to see everybody, and I've seen some of you before, but I'm looking forward to working with everybody. Go ahead, Lori.
And I'm Lori Widener, and I'm the executive director, and I know all of you. Susan had asked who's not in the space. Alyssa Brady, who is our administrative project coordinator, is out ill today. And so she's not with us. Nancy Healy is our executive board secretary. So she's a member of the executive board. She'll also be a note taker. She is also not here today. And that's why we're recording today's session. So I'm going to toss this to Casey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Casey Reed. I am the retiree organizer in the Central Region, so Carlos of the Midwest. And I'm going to toss it to Derek.
Hi, everybody. I am Derek Van Spoor, the Associate Director of RPEC. I'm in Olympia, a couple doors down from everyone else here. I am going to throw this at Ben.
Kidding. No, hi everyone. I think like Lori, I know everybody, but I'm the assistant director of the retiree department out of Washington, DC. So excited to be continuing to work on this project with you all, which I really do think is kind of a model for what a lot of our other chapters nationally are going to do. And we're really happy to be partnering with you all on this. So I will toss it over to Emily.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily. I'm the retiree organizer in the East. I'm based out of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. So I'm like the Carlos and Casey of the East.
Which I should also say, for someone who's not in the space, today Carlos is his family is growing, so they are expecting not sure exactly what time but it's the time change, but they are scheduled to have their baby today, so that is why he is not here, and you know, he's been doing a lot of good work on this with everybody on this, so we're happy to fill in for him while they are having a great day. So
Awesome. I think Emmett is the only one who hasn't gone yet. Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Emmett Mills. I'm RPEC's Government Affairs Coordinator, so I coordinate our legislative advocacy and our political action work as well. I'm in Olympia, just like the rest of our team.
Fabulous. Thank you, everybody. So let's start with big picture. I know everybody probably kind of has a sense of this, but just so that we're all of the same mind as to where we are. So the activity that we're going to do on Friday, this listening session, is part of a broader strategic planning process. So there are 3 ways that RPEC is gathering data to inform the strategic planning process that will happen in August. So there has already been kind of a scientific phone poll. There is a written survey out. There's some different kind of tone and tenor of the questions that were in those 2. Obviously, the poll component will allow us to compare to some of the working member surveys and the national trends around retirees. And then there's some more customization that happened in the written poll. So we don't have the written survey data back yet. That's in process, but we do have the initial poll. And so the third prong of this, I hate to use pitchfork, but that is the only image that came to my mind of the fork.
Right in.
Stool. It's stool. It's the stool. The thing that will thank you. So is this listening opportunity? And so we want to carve this out very specifically, because the idea of a listening session like this is to go deeper on issues that have started to elevate in the data. And frankly, as the RPEC staff will, I'm sure, fully tell you, this isn't a lot of times this will elevate something that we don't expect, but oftentimes it shows us something that we already know or suspect about what our membership wants or needs, right? And it allows us to dig as much as possible into those trends or themes, in particular, so that the leadership and the membership can look at these tools and say, oh, look, I see them in different kinds of relief, right? I see a different focus, or I see trends in a way that I haven't seen them before. So our purposefulness in Friday is to actually pull out some very specific things that that RPEC has identified, that we've seen in the survey, and we are looking for to build out the context. We're looking for some of the story that goes with these themes. We're looking for the themes themselves. And we're looking to have a process, a conversation that has a couple objectives. One of those objectives is this needs to be a positive experience for those who are in the space, right? So I'd elevate that in any kind of member engagement process. We have a couple different populations that we'll talk about so that everybody's aware of who we're going to engage with. On top of the fact that they are all RPEC members. So we'll just put that in the space now, but making sure that people have a very positive experience. Most people feel value when they are listened to. So this is an opportunity to create a space for members and leaders to feel heard in a different way. And so part of what you're going to see in the outline is we're going to set the stage for that. We're going to create some norms for that. And then most of the conversation is going to happen in these smaller groups. And that is where, and they are really, where our intention is to keep them as small as possible. There may be a little bit of shuffling on the day of, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I just want you to be aware that one, the member experience is important. And the second objective here is clearly for us to have data, to have some articulation, story, and some potential solutions, right? Because we're going to, with the executive board in May, and then again in August, but first in May, we're going to work with whatever data we have, including the data from this session, and we're going to help them start to assimilate with and better understand what that data means. And that means elevating themes, having them come up with themes. But I think it's a fallacy when we expect a small group of leaders to sit in a strategic planning process and have all the great ideas, right? So this is one of the best opportunities for us to go deeply into our membership and really think about and have them articulate, well, from my lived experience, from the skin that I'm in, from the place I'm in my retirement journey, this is how I see the world. And so I wanted to kind of articulate that big picture bridge. We're going to do this one very unique listening session. We're going to see how it works. So when we talk today, we'll talk a little bit about data, especially as we talk about note takers, because both, if you are playing the role of a facilitator or playing the role of a note taker, you're going to have a pretty important moment of to capture what you hear. And we'll talk about how we can make sure that those things are in the notes. I want to pause there and pass it to Lori and your team, or Ben. Is there anything else in terms of kind of that big picture, the purpose of our engagement with the membership on Friday that you'd like to have in the space? Nothing? It's okay, you know? Okay, perfect.
No,
okay, we got it. All righty. So you have, let's do this. Let's talk about first the roles. So we have essentially pulled this group, this lovely, beautiful, brilliant group of humans together to do, to play two different specific, actually there's a third role but the first role is the facilitator. And we very specifically put international staff in the role of lead facilitator. And part of the purposeful of that is one of our primary objectives as we get into the space with our members is to get them to relax and be as candid as possible. We do not want them telling us what they think we want to know. We want them to tell us their truth, their lived experience. We have to manage that sometimes when people say stuff, those conversations can be a little bit messy. And we, again, because we're holding up a goal or an objective here to have this positive experience for everybody, we don't want any harm done by truth telling. I don't feel like any of the conversations we're going to lead to could be there. And we've created some groupings that are hopefully will contain some of those. So I'll explain that a little bit more. But I think for our purposes, we are actually have facilitators. The international staff predominantly will lead. Lori is going to take one group. She's going to take the executive board group, which will have a very, I think, a distinctly different kind of tone and engagement. And we've paired you with an RPEC staff member who are going to be wearing the primary hat of note taker. But I also see the RPEC staff, you're the folks who are knee deep in it with your members. So part of what we need you in the room is a critical listener, right? So you have somebody who's neutral, may not know the unit as well, and somebody who is very deeply involved in the lives of RPEC members. And so having both of you in the room is huge in terms of listening, identifying trends that you're seeing, identifying surprises, right? Because as a note taker, as an RPEC staff member, you're probably going to hear things with a different lens than somebody who is in a different role. And so the advantage of having those two roles in the same room is twofold. But we do want the facility, if somebody is going to have to pause conversation or slow down somebody who's talking too much or shift gears and try to pull up, we want that person to be the international staff person. For one reason, it actually keeps the RPEC staff neutral because you're going to be part of whatever that engagement, the implementation part of a strategic planning process down the road. So it's also an opportunity that if there is some slowdown, then we want the facilitator to do that. So we have two key roles. One is the facilitator. That person is going to be guiding the conversation. They're going to be posing the question. They're going to be trying to manage. So the facilitators, you own the responsibility, or we own the responsibility of trying to get all the voices in the room, right? So you may have to ask follow-up questions or reframe a question in the space because you're not getting participation on it. So you're going to want to know kind of why. Is that because they're shy? And we've got a lot of things in here to prevent shyness. But are they inhibited in some way from saying something? Or is this question not resonating? Do they not have experience that allows them to actually answer the question, right? You do not need to have everybody responding to every question. It's really important that the structure of this is actually built upon having kind of a sampling. Not everybody will have something to say on everything, and that's a-okay. We want to make space for that to happen. Like if somebody, making sure facilitators, if you get a pause or a couple people have spoken to say, does anybody else have a story or an experience that you'd like to share on this, right? So open-ended questions, making sure that there's an opportunity, but it's okay if not everybody has an experience on something that's expected, right? The other way that you will see, and we'll walk through it in a bit, you'll see the agenda is created with a series of questions, and there's some specific notes in there, like a star next to a question that we really would like you to try to get to. And there's different areas of it. And then there are some possible follow-up questions. And I've built those just to give you a sense for how you might go deeper, or how you might frame a question that takes you to the next level with them, or pulls out folks that don't have an experience. Just expect that you will have people who are in different, who have different experiences based on where they are in their journey and who they are. Before I shift to note takers, let's just talk, because I forgot to put it up front. Let's talk about the audience. We have a very distinct audience. Actually, we have kind of multiple audiences in this group that you're going to see. They are grouped very specifically in the breakout. So we're going to meet together. We're going to then move to breakout. So when I talk about you being a facilitator, you're going to be doing that in your small group. We have a couple sections of what we call RPEC chapter leaders. So those folks are going to be very familiar with RPEC. They have some lived experience with their chapter, but also with RPEC, with information. We're going to try it a couple different ways to suss out what experience the folks in the room might have when they were working. There's a poll question that's going to happen around that. And so there are a couple groups in that category. They tend to be chattier, right? They're used to leading, or they're in a leadership role. So those of you who are facilitating those, and right now we have Terry as a facilitator in one of those, and Ben as a facilitator in one of those. So your challenge is actually going to be watching who is not speaking and bringing them forward, managing time with them, because they're not, in my experience with leaders, they're not hard to get going because they're used to it and they have a lot to say. And so there'll be a lot of information, I think, coming out of those two groups. And we want that information specifically so we know out of this, what are our leaders thinking, feeling, and experiencing with RPEC, and what do they want to see happen next, right? The next universe, as I will call it, is actually, I'm going to talk about kind of our plan 1 and 2. These are going to be age 71 and greater. And right now, Casey, we have you on that group. Okay. So another group that's probably been around in RPEC for a while, not necessarily, but most of these folks, I think, that would volunteer their time for something like this have some experience. So it's going to be trying to suss that out and really get them through their questions. So they have lived experiences. And part of this is for RPEC is for us to start looking at these populations and trying to figure out, are there discrete differences between them? So we have quite a bit of data from this group. Right now, there is one group. It's a little bit larger group, Casey. So if they all show up, this is probably one of our largest, just because we chose to split another one. Lori, as I said, has the executive committee. We have about 9 executive committee members who are going to be on there. They are in a separate group because they have a unique experience. We also don't want their presence to inadvertently chill a conversation that somebody else might have. And that is only because they're the people who are in those, visible leadership roles right now. And we don't want anybody inhibited to say something critical like, oh, this isn't working for me. We want to explore why that isn't working, so we better understand that. We don't want anybody to get feelings hurt. We don't want anybody to not say that because somebody's sitting in the room. And then our last population, which is actually one, and right now I'm going to facilitate one. Emily, we have you on the other one. This is one of the primary focus areas for RPEC. These are plan 2 and 3. So these are, and numerically younger. So they are up to age 70. Currently, we have 6, and we've split them into 2 groups. So the intention here is for this to be very small, because this is a group that is coming up. And what I adore about the lens that RPEC is taking is viewing our members in their life journey, and the people we have coming in are actually kind of they are the future, right? So this is the group that kind of represents some of that future thinking. And we're going to see, we'll have their demographic data. So we'll know kind of what, kind of where they sit in that spectrum. But the idea here is to really, to try to get as much conversation going with these groups. So they are very specifically held small in that 6-person range. And again, note to everybody here, not everybody will show up, right? So you've got some numbers on there. They're gonna be lighter than that. Emily, if our group gets too small, if it gets awkward, then, and we'll kind of do a check as we get folks in the Zoom space, then we'll, there's a possibility of combining them. But if we've got 4 or 5 folks in each one, I think that's fine. Right? Any lower than that, it does not work, and we'll combine them. It just is like an awkward date. Nobody wants that. So, so our purpose, again, getting this data out. So let's talk about note takers. So what we're doing for the note takers, again, this is an anonymous experience. Anonymous meaning we want the demographics, and we kind of want a sense for who's saying what, but we're not wanting to attribute a person with a comment. If you need to, so what note takers are going to be responsible for doing is actually documenting with as much specificity as you can, right? So if you can, but there are some specific things that we want to hold up. Is there a story that is shared? We don't need all the details of the story, but the main points of the story. A story that is that demonstrates actually a theme or a point that the person is making. Is there a quote that is helpful to demonstrate a mindset, a theme, a feeling, or an experience, right? What typically happens is you're taking notes as fast as you can and something will pop up. So what I'm hoping the note takers can do is, and the facilitators should do this as well, please notice a couple things. Notice themes. Do you have a high frequency of the same lived experience? Are people nodding? And that's really the facilitator who's probably going to say, oh yeah, the nodding. It's okay as a facilitator to ask, how many of you have had a similar experience to that? And they can raise their hand. If you've got a trend there, make a note of it, right? If you have comments coming from a specific demographic, I need you to take note of that for us. So if the most obvious, if it's presented such, if the female, kind of the females of the space are having a different lived experience than the males that are articulating in the space, please just make a note of that. All right, that's just an example. And this is obviously, we're not doing anything in the room that's specific to gender identification or gender presentation. Like that's not what we're about, but it is a great and easy way to trend some of those things. If you're noticing, so what you'll likely get are just a high frequency on certain issues, certain beliefs, certain feelings, certain needs. But explore the alternatives, right? So if you have, 5 people that are saying, I had this lived experience, you've got 2 or 3 that don't. Please, if you can, for the facilitators, take note, try to elevate and kind of figure out what their experience is, how it's different. So that we can kind of get to why, and note takers will just need you to try to track that. On the note-taking sheet that you have in the chat, and we can send it via email as well. I have it actually structured in it's a Word document, but it is got a little chart in it. If that is too awkward for you, I can pull it out of it and just put it into a Word document. I just need to do that today or tomorrow. I won't have time before the session after that. But I'm happy to do that, and I'm in the wrong doc. Look here. All right, so we talked about note taking, we talked about facilitating a little bit. We'll do tips and tricks in a second, but and then tech. So we are in a Zoom platform. I believe it was Derek gets the tech award, who's going to manage and make sure we're all beautiful, smooth humans. So we're going to be in a general session together, and then we will be in the breakout space. You don't have it today just because I ran out of time, but you'll have a PowerPoint that you will have individually. And so the facilitators should probably kind of make sure that they have that. It just has the question. It's only going to have the primary question on it. Okay, and we'll walk through the sheet and I'll show you what those primary questions are. The purpose is we may have people, we cannot turn closed captioning on in the breakout space. So you will need a visual cue in that space. And I would ask that you kind of stay attuned to the fact that we'll have people who potentially have hearing issues. So sometimes tracking the conversation can be a little bit tricky, and we'll use a PowerPoint slide. You should be able to share the slide in your individual breakout space. You can pull that down and put that up as best as you can. And you should have the ability to post in your chat as well. Okay, I have hands. I don't want to talk anymore. Ben, go.
No worries. Thank you again, Susan, for leading and facilitating all of this. I was going to say we do have a few slides on best Zoom practices that we can send.
Okay.
I think Carlos made it. Shout out to him. I think I don't know if Casey or Emily or Terry, if y'all have it, we can send that around. And the other thing too, I wanted to we need to be better about remembering this in our department sometimes, is the ASME code of conduct. It's just one quick slide about Lori, you probably saw it at convention, the will be a harassment free
space.
Yeah,
I'll do that one.
Yep. Cool.
Just real quick, Ben, are you talking about Carlos's best practices for Zoom meetings?
Yeah, the how to mute, unmute. We're asking everybody to be, so y'all know, or RPEC, I know y'all have done a lot of great work to build up to get folks to attend on Friday. We are encouraging everyone to be present on video for the entire session. I think that's coming later, but it is, that not sure, you can't we're not going to kick anybody out if they're not on video or on their computer or tablet or device. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of, how to mute yourself, how to share your video, how to raise your hand, all that good stuff. So
go ahead, Lori. Thank you, Ben. That's perfect.
So what I wanted to share builds off of that. So Derek had put a sample in the PowerPoint template that we sent. It doesn't go into that minute detail, but it does cover some of the expectations and also what to do if you're participating and something happens, because so there's some directions built in there. So there may be a way of combining those two frames. So it's great to know that you also have a standing one that you use. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and it's really for the ASME facilitators, since this is the first time we're getting together, the RPEC team that's serving as the note takers, we will record the session. And so we have a way to do that. Derek was able to give us a workaround. It's not through Zoom, but that way we will have that. When we have a good quote, it's to validate the accuracy of the verbatim without attribution. And if we ever want to go back and listen to one, if let's say that that Casey has a really dynamic session and it's just a lot of fantastic information's coming out, you may say others need to listen to this, and that way we'll have it, right? And so that's just for all of you to know. We will be recording the main sessions where Susan will be our facilitator, the opening and the closing, and then each of the breakouts will be also recorded, but differently. So anyway, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you. And when we do the opening, we will be making the participants aware that the recording is happening and what its purposefulness is, right? So it is a way of checking data. It is not going to be used. There is no attribution. So if somebody were super uncomfortable, I don't expect that, but if they were, you know, that's the time to do it. So everybody's aware. It shouldn't come up as an issue for facilitators in the small group. If somebody has a question, they can hang back and we'll check in together with them. So thank you for that. That's perfect. So again, I'll do as Ben mentioned, we'll have a general opening. I want to catch any other kind of specific questions about kind of what your roles are, what you're needing. All right. So what I really want to do out of an abundance of caution and not caution as much as it's just making sure we're all on the same page. I'm going to share my screen. Alrighty. I will warn you if I am going to move said screen so you can avert your eyes if you have a vertigo issue. Okay. Let's see. Terry, can you see that okay? Okay.
I guess I can.
All right. So these are the groups we were talking about earlier. Derek, we have you tap dancing in 2 places. So I think Lori had mentioned that to you, that we've got you kind of hanging out in the tech room, making sure everything is smooth, and then jumping in as a note taker or Ben, but Ben can certainly get things rolling. So take the time that you need to do what you need. Lori?
I mentioned this in chat, but I know you're busy leading this, Susan.
Yep.
Derek has updated the breakout rooms with total numbers.
Good new numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we actually ended up having 60 people before registration was cut off.
Oofta.
And
okay.
so I wanted to share that. And then I also, Alyssa Brady, who is our administrative project coordinator, has joined us. So for those who don't know,
Hi, Alyssa.
She's here, and she will be one of our note takers. So anyway, just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Perfect. And that's in the chat. I can't see that right. Okay.
The totals aren't in chat, but we can
just send them to me.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
That's fine. Perfect. Okay. So let's just walk through this section by section. So we're literally, I'll do the, Claire is actually going to do the open, the RPEC president, RPEC chair, and he will do this kind of quick open. And so that people understand and are thanked right off the bat. We'll have an opening PowerPoint slide up. And then we'll walk through with them the structure of our time so that they know what to expect when they get to breakout. Again, vast majority of the time is going to be spent with you in the breakout. And that is the purposefulness. Anonymity and discussion norms, as we talked about, that's going to happen. I'll do that with them. So we're setting the stage specifically. Okay, moving on, avert your eyes. So we're going to have some form of norms that I'll discuss. This will go after the code of conduct slide. So one voice, one mic. And that is, you know, sometimes you see it as one diva, one mic. So, you know, don't talk over anybody. One of the tips and tricks for facilitators is you want to interrupt as little as possible, but you do need to manage how much time and airspace somebody is taking, especially if it's a large group. So this helps give somebody the floor so they are not interrupting each other. The other one is, I didn't put it down here, but you may want to say it, ask them to be, concise. Think about what they want to share, and, if you've got a story, give us just the highlights kind of thing. So be conversational in that. You may have to reiterate that when you're in your small group. Lean in, be back. This is where I put kind of the be brief. So we want people who have a lot to say, to have an opportunity to say something, and then we need them to lean back. So we always start with that. Camera on whenever possible. Hard on issues, gentle on people. So we don't want any call outs. So we create as a norm. If they're trying to describe an experience, they can describe an experience, but have them if there's a behavior that they don't want to see, I'd rather have a description of the behavior. The name is going to be meaningless when we look at the data. So we want more kind of descriptive words. And then be fully present. So this is not an activity that they can do while they're doing laundry or other things that actually have them kind of away from their computer and jumping back in. I believe in breakout, and maybe Derek can tell me if I'm wrong, you should have the ability to mute a participant. Derek, am I correct about that?
I believe that still works, yes.
Okay. So if you're a facilitator, which is a natural thing to have happen, and somebody has stepped away or needs to take care of a family something, and they leave themselves on mute, just make sure you mute them, right? So just know you have the powers, so please use those powers if you need to be. If you have an issue with anybody, the one thing we have kind of everybody in breakouts right now. But what we didn't talk about, Lori and Ben, is if there's somebody who is being disruptive and we think we need to remove them, that person should probably we should either send them to me, to Ben, or to Lori. So what we will do is identify who that person is and because they would be removed. Certainly if you think that they're saying something that and you've reminded them, because I think what I need you to do as a facilitator is if you've got somebody who is just talking too much, you can interrupt them and simply say, let's hear from some of the voices that we haven't heard yet. Those kind of cues usually are enough for most adults to take heed. But if somebody is on a mission and we need to remove them, we can do so. So maybe Lori, Ben, and I can kind of figure that out before we get to the event. I don't expect it in this group. I don't expect a charge out of this, but you never know. Navigation slide. So the work that Derek and Derica will want you to present, talk through, especially the what do you do if you're having trouble on the tech stuff, you don't mind. And then we will do a very quick introduction. Since our numbers have actually gone up, depending on who shows up, we're going to stick with a couple of these things. So this changes it a little bit. Each of you are going to be asked to introduce yourself so that they understand who you are and what role you're playing. You'll see me in a room. I'm going to be one of the facilitators today. So we want them to know who you are. We want them to know something about you. So name, title, organization is absolutely, but also name what you're going to be doing and in there. Attendees, naming the profession. What I want them to do, we're going to want to get their name in the space, but we can't do it verbally with the amount of time. So what we'll do is have them put their names in the chat. This will be a quick figuring out who can actually get their name in the chat, or if there are any issues with that. Hopefully we don't have too many people who are on phones. That's where the chat becomes unwieldy. But we want them to put their name and their profession before they retired in the chat. And then we'll do some polls, some quick demographic polls. So if you're facilitating or note-taking, if you could just kind of pay attention to the trends that we're seeing demographically in the group. They should be a real mix. It's question number 3. Have you been a union activist leader leader and member in your past life. So, and I think I've framed that a little bit funky, but we want to know if they came, how many people actually were a leader or an activist in Council 2 or 28. We want to know if they were active in another union in Washington. So we're kind of sussing out here how much of that union leadership is present in the room from their previous worlds. Okay, any questions on that? So what that means is they wouldn't have actually physically put their voice in the space. So we're going to move them into breakouts at this point. So this is starting, you're in breakouts. This is where you pick up. We start with open-ended questions. You will have to do introductions in your breakout. Everyone needs to share at least their first name in the breakout. That will test whether people can unmute and talk in particular, but also if you have any others, making sure that they're in the right place. And we're not advertising. I'll tell them what groups, that we have these groups. And so you'll be in a universe of people who, and you're specifically there. So we don't want them going out and asking to go in a different group. That's, they're going to be placed there. So they should just be shuttled to where they need to be. But it's important for you to put get their names in the space. It's important that that you see here the asterisk next to the question. That means we really want you to try to get there. And there's still too many of them. There's still a lot of asterisks on here. So I'm just going to apologize and say, do the best you can, right? Get the best you can. So this first one are general questions. So there's two focuses to this first 20 minutes. One of them is this is where we create ease and candor for people to participate. We want them real comfortable and starting to talk. So at the end of this 20 minutes, you need to have everybody has said something. Everybody has participated. Actually want them to participate beyond their name. So as we talk about these first questions, each of you made a decision to become an RPEC member, like participating today, right? And can you share with us what you think, what do you value most about being an RPEC member? So these are soft questions. They are purposefully soft because they should be easy for everybody to have an answer. There's no right or wrong, it just is. And then we move into some of and these are soft and conversational, but they're also designed to get to speak to member engagement. What do you think RPEC does really well and should continue? The second question you see just has a slash by it, kind of why. These are some follow-up questions you're going to probably want to use with them. Try to find out why. Try to find out if there's something specific comes up. Do you think has a particular value for our retirees and why? So if there are things you can call out, get enough information so we understand some of the story. Again, some of this data we have in some of these other survey forms, but it's important for us to actually be specific. And again, we're here for depth, not checking the box that we've asked the question. And then, is there something they'd like to see RPEC do differently or that we think we could do better? And this is where we want to all have, one, we're going to own our own thick skins and we want to hear all of it. This is where this is a good frame. Does anyone have thoughts on things that would make RPEC even better than better? There's a typo there, clearly. I'll clean that up for you. But if you're looking at how to frame some questions to just kind of, or you may need to reframe a question. If you figured out that you've got some people who've been leaders in other places, have you seen another union do something that you think RPEC would benefit from? That's the kind of query that we want you to do. This is no different than talking to other members. So this first section, you're warming them up. They should be chatty by the end of that first 20 minutes. And then we work into, there's 3 directed topics. So member engagement is a theme throughout. So you will have heard some member engagement things in the first one. But what the staff and the leadership really wants to understand is, how do members want to engage now and in the future? Are there things that we can be doing differently that increase member engagement on critical issues that are important to our RPEC members, right? So that is some of what we're digging for. So we know key to RPEC success is having involved members, and we know this can look different for different people, right? So they will have a different measure of success. So we're looking for a couple things. So this first asterisk question, when you think about getting involved in RPEC, like coming here today, are there ways you prefer to participate? So that could be anything. They could say in person, they would say, I hate Zoom. They say, I like Zoom. I only like to participate by writing letters to the legislature. I like to send posts. I mean, world is your oyster. Call out what it is. If you need to give them example, give them an example. Some people actually come to our PEC meetings. Some people write postcards for the legislature. Give them 2 examples to get the juices flowing. This is not new stuff. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, so I appreciate everybody being super patient. This is an important question. What prevents you from participating? Right? So we know that we are vying for valuable time for our RPEC members. There's a lot going on in a retiree's life. And so there are also things that might actually make it impossible for them to participate in a certain way. So elevate that. We'll see who's willing to share. You may or may not get a bunch there. But when the next question, are there things RPEC can do to make it easier for you to participate or motivate you to take part in something? We're looking for 2 different types of things, right? So if there's a barrier, what is that barrier? Is that middle question. And then we really want to know what we could do. So some people are motivated because they get paid mileage or there's a meal. Some people are motivated because they feel threatened by something that a political body is doing. They feel upset or angry, or they have an emotion. Some people are there because they're socializing. So if we can pull out from your group as much of that as you can somewhere in this dialogue, remember there's only about 20 minutes here. So we think that you'll get through kind of this set, and you can get there in a different, if there's a different way of getting to those 3 concepts because you need to reframe questions, that's okay. That's okay. If there is time, in particular for Casey, for your group, if there is time, talking to them, there's a couple questions about in-person or virtual meetings. And if they are coming to a meeting, what's valuable about them. So if anybody can get there, great. I feel like the local leaders may have a lot to say. The executive board may have a lot to say here. But this is an if time, and I do want you to know on the left-hand side, I forgot to say, we have the 20 minutes. This should take about 20 minutes. That could go a little long. That could be a little shorter. But please manage the time because there's going to be a hard stop, and we do want you through all 3 of the directed categories by the end. So you can fudge a little bit because you're managing your own time on each of these topic areas. So that's topic area number 1. There are some follow-up questions if you want. So I need the facilitators to really read through this, just as I'm doing. When you're speaking it, sometimes it doesn't flow as well, so you may want to reframe it a little bit, and that's okay too. Just stay as close to the gist of what we're doing as possible. So the second segment is about 15 minutes, and that's focus is on information and technology. Again, you have an estimated time frame here, but you may be running a little faster or slower. What ways do you prefer to receive information on important issues from RPEC? We've asked this question in a number of different ways. So this is a bit of a soft one for them. This will get the juices flowing. This will transition them. It is really important for our younger groups, for our up to 70s. We want to get them to this second question. Today's technology provides many ways to connect and engage on issues we care about. What do you think RPEC should continue to explore, and why? So I would say that everybody can move fairly quickly to this, since the first question is soft. But we really need we are specifically looking to that younger set for kind of where should we be exploring technology And what do we think that they will use or not use? So feel free to add follow-up questions. I didn't do a lot of extra follow-up questions like I did in the top two on these. I figure you just want to explore kind of what and how they use things. Questions on those so far? This is a lot of Crumpton. Okay. All right, our last directed topic is specifically on legislative action. So it is important to transition this one. So I like using hand raising, so they can use the hand raising on camera, they can wave at you, or they can use the response buttons in Zoom. But something as simple as who's ever participated in legislative action or activity, state or federal. So you will, if you have a group that has zero experience with this, you may have to work a little harder at the facilitation to get them to understand and participate. If you have a bunch of activists sitting in your facilitation room, that quick check will just reinforce that, and you can kind of move them on. The second question here, I actually have a note about spending little time here. What issues, federal or state level, do you believe RPEC needs to be involved in? It's important to ask the questions, especially in a group that has not had much involvement, because you need to frame that question. They need to understand kind of what are the issues that are important. But please, we have this data. So the purpose of asking this is transitioning them into a conversation and setting the stage for those groups that don't have a lot of experience. You do not want somebody to have a soliloquy on their favorite issue. So we love them. We love them a lot. Some of these folks are going to be chatty. And as you all know, you all work with retirees. I think this is one to be careful of, because you don't need to have a thorough list of the issues. We're going to have 2 different data sets that have it. So that is the purposefulness of this one. This is the more important question, which is, how would you prefer to get involved? And you may need to use an example. I actually love going to Olympia to talk to my legislator. I prefer to meet my legislator back home at their coffee chat in the community. You will probably have to use an example. You may have to use an example, but if you have activists, find out what they like to do. If you have folks that are not activists, you may have to frame this differently. If there's something you're passionately about, what are some of the ways you can think of that you'd feel comfortable getting involved with if you wanted to do that? So it's about their comfort and they're willing to actually engage. If you have time to ask the barriers question, I like barriers question. Is there something that prevents you from getting involved? Because that actually elevates, I don't have enough information. I don't feel confident talking. I'm afraid of questions that I might be asked. You may get, I don't see the point. Or I'm not political. One would hope at this stage in the game, they understand that they're heavily impacted by politics and legislative action, but you never know. What supports do you need to feel comfortable being involved in political action, especially at the federal level? We're trying to gear this one a little bit more towards the federal, because this is a place that RPEC has not done a lot of work in, and the exploratory component of this for RPEC is to try to go there. So if you're a facilitator, I would actually skip the barriers question if you're running short on time, because you're at your hard stop here. And see if you can get that last question in. Again, this one, you got 2 soft ones, and then we get into involvement and what they need to feel comfortable being involved. And those really are how we get member engagement data out of them. Again, your hard stop is 11:35. This is a pretty long listening session. And despite our best efforts, we couldn't make it shorter and get really authentic conversation happening. So I think it's worth it. And it gives enough ease in the schedule for you to go where you need to go. So just kind of track your time. And then when we come back together, and if somebody has a different idea on this, I'm all ears. We want some kind of summary before we thank them and send them on their merry way. It's a little bit tricky as a facilitator to be the one holding and then reporting. So my preference is the note takers actually pull out 1 or 2 high-level themes of discussion and be prepared to share it out. I think you will be more concise. So if anybody is uncomfortable with that, if you could think about that and let us know, we'll make sure the facilitator knows that they need to be kind of doing that report out, but it's going to be a rapid round report out. It's literally kind of 15 minutes. And then we're shifting them into here's our next steps in this process, a thank you, and we'll have an evaluation link for them to fill out then, and we close. So, oofta. I'm hoping that was helpful. I know some of this stuff I wouldn't normally read to you, but given these are questions we're going to need to be asking. Does anybody have anything that stands out as confusing? I'm going to stop sharing.
Susan, Emily put a question in the chat.
Yep, please. Oh, I'm not seeing the chat.
I just asked if you could give some examples for who has participated in legislative action or activity.
So examples of what kind of legislative activity? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So would you prefer so a couple of them we said we're looking for kind of what actions. Do they like to lobby? Lobby is a big word. Do they like to write postcards? Do they like, have they actually gone on an activity? Have they filled out a legislative survey from RPEC or AFSCME? Ben, do you have some that are common that would come up?
Yeah, no, I think that's, I was just gonna say, right, like, I know RPEC partners with the teacher retirees to do their lobby day, right? They do a lot of actions on calling on, and part of this too, right, y'all? I think you've heard this from our like staff check-ins, right? The RPEC does a really great job on advocating, and they've been fighting for a long time on the Plan 1 COLAs, and permanent reinstatement is a long-term goal, but really reaching those Plan 2 and 3 folks who don't have that kind of galvanizing issue, but also seeing what they're interested in, right? To be active in, right? All the same, like, right, making phone calls, writing letters. Go ahead, Lori. Yeah.
I was just going to say that if it would be helpful to really, I guess, Emily, Casey, and Terry, there's information that we can follow up with if you were to read either my monthly letter or we put out a news flash. We can give you some examples of that. But yeah, we are very engaged because this is what makes us, there's many things that make us different from the other sub chapters, but one is that there's 6 full-time professionals that do this, as the day's long. We're not volunteer driven. We are, but not the implementation. We do all of that. So we do lots of member mobilization, where we have people come to legislative meetings and we do virtual protests and letter writing and e-blasting and, so we can tease that out for you in an email or just send it to everyone so you have it.
I've got, in fact, your last one up, so I can send a few of those on to the team. So, yep.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'd be super helpful.
And Emmett and I can outline a lot of different options that you may want to use as prompts, some of which we've already talked about today.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to feel like you know all of the things, right? So this is about giving them enough examples that it stimulates their thinking, unless you have a group that really has limited experience in the political realm. Then you may have to use a couple more. And if they really aren't going anywhere in that conversation, move it to the next question. make it more general so that we are kind of honoring, well, when you've volunteered for something else, what are the things that get you to go there? Right? Because usually there's a value that they hold. So when we choose where to spend our time, it's because it's something that aligns with something we believe deeply about, right? So you can always kind of come back to that space and then make a note as a note taker and the facilitator. Like, there are times when you're like, this is like pulling teeth. Like, this group had zero experience with this. They don't seem to have the connection between why we would do it. Like, there wasn't values-based conversation that came out of that. You know, like, I do this when I feel passionately about it. Or I feel defeated. Like, there's a lot of looking at government and feeling defeated. So make notes of what you're hearing. Remember, we're trying not to infer, but please make the observation that this group really was not going. In particular, I think, frankly, Emily, you and I are going to have that group. If we have a pretty significant disconnect on the legislative action section, then we need to know that, right? We need to compare that experience with the analysis in the data and the survey to see if that demographic truly is that disconnected, because the work for RPEC will change. They would need to do a very significant education and value-based program set before they can continue mobilization and activism, right? Because we all have to get there and understand what we're doing first. So that's when I talk about kind of looking for those disconnects, that's a perfect example of where you could run into it. And if you're really if it's like pulling teeth, then you know you've got something there. And so the question would be, as a facilitator, can you figure out why? Right? So by the time they get to some of these harder things, they should be real comfortable speaking in the group, because everybody should have done it a couple times by the time they get there. So if all of a sudden your room goes dead, that says something, right? Sorry, shouldn't use dead, but goes quiet. How's that? Okay.
I think you'll have more
Yes.
of the, I was just gonna say, if I had to guess, especially given how active RPEC members are generally, like, it's gonna be more getting the people like me to step back than it is getting others to step up. But I think also that will be, again, like, we want us to be, the intention is that y'all know enough about working with older Americans, with retirees, but like the context will really come in with RPEC's team. Now that y'all, again, like, I'm sure you would have done, we could have switched these roles around, but just like giving the space for people to voice their views, good, bad, and other, right? So I'm not too worried that they won't be like having a lot to say. But yeah, just keeping it moving.
I think there's also, if as a note taker, there's something that you want to know, or you think that there's a question that needs to be asked, please communicate that with your facilitator. So whether you're using the chat function, make sure you decide how you're going to actually communicate with each other, or if you want to exchange cell phones, some way that you and your partner in that group are behind the scenes able to check in with each other. Honestly, I think Jacob, you're my buddy. No, Emmett, you're my buddy. I prefer to have my co-facilitator on my cell phone thread, have a thread with the two of us in there, so that because it's going to sit differently in a different space. Because as you saw here, it's difficult to be tracking the questions and facilitating and watching the body language in the group and miss something in a chat. So if you can kind of make sure you are doing that, if you need help facilitating that, let us know. But otherwise, I think the only thing I want you to feel really comfortable is to be yourself, be natural, use humor if you can get them, laughing, and there to be a kind of a lightness in conversation in a congenial manner. The best conversations happen when we are ourselves and are human. And, you know, what I really wish for is that your biggest issue is they have so much to say that we have to pick and choose those questions we get to and don't get to. If the asterisks become overwhelming, do the best you can and manage your time as facilitators to get through those topics. So we have some data coming out of each of those topics. If you have questions between now and Friday, you all have my email. You are welcome to reach out directly and I can help you. And if you don't, I can put it in the Wonder chat because I definitely have an email. Are there any other questions? That was a lot of information in, and so I'm very apologetic for that because it's not my, I don't know any other good way to just get us prepped. Any other questions, thoughts, things you need to be successful? Okay, cool beans. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be amazing. Yes, Lori, go for it.
I just wanted to thank Susan, Ben, and Carlos, who isn't with us, for just all of the time and insights and expertise that you've shared. We are very excited. We're very grateful for all of the time that you've invested for bringing us a best practice process that we can use with our board. I think that will go a really long way with them. And, you know, I can't begin to thank you for all the time that you've spent to get us to this place and the commitment that you've made to carry us through this, you know, through next year. So I just want to thank you. And I want to thank all of our AFSCME people who've given up the time on Friday to support us and help us. So we deeply appreciate each one of you and the work that you're going to help us undertake in this next information gathering, I guess, strategy for our board. So thank you all, with a special shout out to Susan, Ben, and Carlos.
You're welcome.
Of course, thank you. You're welcome.
So what I can do is, if my team and I are going to be meeting today, we have a staff meeting every Monday. I'll put this on the agenda, and if we have questions that have come forward, I can just send one email so that you're getting that, and I'll send it to Susan and Ben for you to respond to it. Okay,
that sounds great.
In the meantime, what we can do, Susan, if you think, we can either send you, I can either have Derek send you the materials he's working from, or we can update what you sent us for the note taking and the 2 templates you sent this morning. We can update those with the numbers so that we
yeah, if you're going to be working on it, if it's easy for you to update them, you can do either way works. You can either update them and send it to me, or
why don't I do that? And then you, if you're comfortable with it, then you can send it out to everyone.
That sounds great.
And I can send it to, you know, to our RPEC team.
Okay. I think also, Lori, since we're all here, I think you and Ben, and probably Derek and I need to get on an email, a text chain that day to make sure that, one, if there is a tech issue, we have a concise way of getting it to Derek, but also if we have an issue that any of the facilitators have, maybe we just put everybody on a chain.
That's fine. I can turn around and send you an email with all of our cell phone numbers, so we can all do that.
Is everybody comfortable with that? So that there is one way for us, if you have, and that's really if you've really got an emergency thing, or you've lost track of time, you're not sure where you're supposed to be, or something strange or unusual is happening.
Yeah. Okay. So I can do that.
Okay.
Now, is there a need, since you've opened this up, is there a need for us to also have cells for the AFSCME folks who were joining us if we need to get them information? Or do you want to just have it go through? Well, either way, their buddy, who's the note taker,
preference is everybody's on the same chain.
Yeah.
If the staff is comfortable giving a number, if not, we'll work with them on that.
Okay.
But
well,
my preference is that everybody has one way of actually sharing, especially if something's gone south. Right? I don't expect it to, but the minute we don't prepare, we're going to be sitting looking for who to call. And I'd want you to have just one simple way. Go ahead.
Okay, so question. So I may just be me. I've had plenty of coffee. It could just be me Monday. So are we talking about a text
A text group. I would prefer
distribution?
a distribution list or some way for
But
all
it
of
would,
us.
but is it going to be everybody on there, or is it just you and Ben, Derek, and I? Because I heard that. But
Yeah,
then
we did. I was thinking two things.
Earlier, I also heard, which I agree with, that whoever's the facilitator and the note taker need to be able to text each other. So why don't we, so we could just send around a list of everybody's cell phone numbers, if that makes sense. And there, I think you're right. Like I'm working with Nancy and Nancy has my cell. So Nancy and I are going to have to tag team, but so are the other people who are paired. But then if we do the distribution you talked about, it makes sense that it go to you, Ben and Derek and I. That makes sense to me. But then we also have everybody else's numbers if we need them.
Okay, then that's fine. We can keep it small. We'll just need to make sure that everybody has the numbers for the four of us.
Okay. So I'll tell you what,
and then you need to communicate with your partner. I think I heard you say that as well. So
yeah.
Yes.
So if Casey, Emily, and Terry, if you all want to put your numbers in chat, we'll grab them. And then I'll just put it on one big list. Me and Alyssa can work on that together. And then you'll have our cell phone numbers too. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you for talking through that. We didn't think of that before. Is there any other logistics things anybody needs?
Just a heads up, y'all, that I'm gonna be out tomorrow and Wednesday, but should be back on Thursday. So
okay, no problem. So I will have the rest of the materials kind of to you before probably the end of day tomorrow, maybe today. But again, here's your guide. Make sure you get to all the topics, but don't feel pressured by all the little asterisks. Just make sure you're moving them through a conversation that builds ease. So we don't want you to go completely rogue, but if you need to reframe something that it fits your speech pattern, please do so. Okay. All right, beautiful humans. I got nothing. I think this group's going to be great. We've done as much as we can. So unless there are questions, have a good one. And thank you. It's a great adventure.
Lori and RPEC team, 2 updates. Sorry, the survey is nested, it is not stapled together. And then it is actually going out today. And the organizing mailing will be going on Friday now. So I scheduled the send right before we got on here. So you get that in email as well. But want to give those updates. So yep. Awesome. Talk to y'all later.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye
guys.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.